The biggest factor in footy might be the gap. Now, there used to be a fixation on the bottom 6 players in each team. That is not footy and hasn't been for a little while. I know this appeals to both of you. So I think, John, you've taken on the task here to come up with the top 6 of the teams that are the real gap makers here. And I noticed you've come up with 7 for each.
Yeah, it was sort of 6, 7. It was around about that.
It's too early in the
I
year
wish I had one. I wish I had one more to fit in particular. I'll look at if I put the list up now and have a look at the list that we come up with. I wanted to make a few apologies, primarily for the Sydney Swans list. It was Charlie Curnow. I couldn't quite fit him in there. I'm not sure what I was thinking. But we talk about, as you mentioned, over the years, there's been a lot of focus on the bottom 6 players and, in this case, the bottom 7 players. And if your bottom 7 play well every week or in a certain game, that gives you the best chance. And it just seems to me that the best teams at the moment, these are the 4 teams that clearly won last week. We're going to see more of that over the next few weeks. But the top group of players in this group, being 7 group of the best teams, have an extended advantage on those best players. And there's a big gap between that. And I think, Gary, you mentioned it last night in regards to the next group down being just a bit off that as far as the teams' talent are concerned.
So how aware are you of that group there that you're coaching, and as the game unfolds, maximising that group of players?
Well, we saw it with Sydney on the weekend, didn't we, on Thursday, when that group of players got going. And I think it started with, how do you free up Goulden? He's getting tags. What can we do to help him get the ball, and also what he can do to help the team? So the worry is the gap seems to be getting bigger. These top 6 or 7 players, and you can almost throw Fremantle into that group as well. The haves and have-nots, to get that group of players, that takes years and years and years. And you look at some of the sides at the back half of the ladder and even the sides who are contending or want to contend this year, if you compare the list to St Kilda or even a Collingwood, it's a bit of a gap. So.
Yeah, and also the point that I made the other day is that the players your top 6 suit the way the game is played today, as opposed to how it was played 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, we spoke to Horse about what's the balance of those top 6 or 7. Is it 4 mids, half forward, a half back, and getting that mix right as well. So great list management. It takes years to get that right, and if you lose a Curnow, it sort of changes what your list looks like, and you go back to the draft and try and get this talent through. So those 4 or 5 clubs, they're very, very well set up because a lot of those guys are around for a long period of time.
So last year we had a competition that was defined as a 2-speed economy. There was a 9-9. I don't imagine it will be quite the same, but if you're in the lower echelons building a group at the moment and you look at those 4 teams, John, it's a canyon within the competition at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I suspect this year might be more like the ladder in thirds, and so there'll be a top bracket, I'd imagine, about halfway through the year that'll emerge. There'll be a middle bracket and maybe a lower bracket, so it'll be more in the thirds. And there is a big gap, and I guess this is the challenge for the teams down the bottom is to make sure they pull the right levers. I think if you look at what Richmond are looking at and how they've done it, everyone's suspecting that they'll bounce pretty quickly, whether it's this year or next year, based upon going to a couple of really strong drafts. And that's the other part of the equation. If you get a couple of strong drafts right and your timing's right in the draft, you can actually bounce pretty quickly out of that. And I think Richmond are certainly in that part of the lower echelons at the moment, but could bounce quite quickly.
How important is it then when you look at this side, and maybe you haven't got 7, maybe you've got 4 or 5, to be able to take one of those away, as Collingwood were able to do on the weekend with Nazaya, but St Kilda weren't able to do with Nick. So both of you, would you have gone the same way about it with Nick Dacos as Collingwood, as St Kilda did?
Oh, he got the 10 votes, coaches' votes, so I'm sure if they had their time again, the Saints, they'd reflect on that. The problem with these teams, if you take out 1, there's still 6 left. So the argument can be said for the mid-tier teams and the bottom teams who've got 1 standout A grader, and I think St Kilda, they're probably a bit better than that, but if you cut the head off 1, you might win the game. So that's the challenge too. If you're an A-grade talent and you don't have the support around you, it becomes quite difficult to help a team get over the line.
Would you have run with him as well, Horse, on the weekend?
Personally, Gary, yes. I always thought that taking an opposition strength away from them was one of our great strengths, and so it wasn't being negative. It was just one of our strengths, taking one of the opposition's weapons away from them, was actually good for our team and allowed our best players to shine. So, that was something that we did regularly. And if you've got a player on your team that can do that, it's a great thing for the team to be able to focus on as well. It gives the team a real focus.
The wait was worth it.
How good's footy, guys?
So this is an opening round performance to take notice of.
And this week, everyone gets a seat.
How did we get through summer without the footy?
Thursday night footy, back at the MCG. The Blues hit hard in opening round.
We've got work to do. Hugely disappointing. I know the boys were looking forward to doing a heap better than that.
And look out, here come the Tiger Cubs. You might remember how they flipped the script on the Blues this time last year.
Tigers are oh, somersaults! What do we see at the MCG, the spectacular?
Friday night, the rivalry that never rests.
Hawthorn are not taking any funny business today.
The Bombers and the Hawks, the best of enemies.
This is the 1980s revisited.
Yes, it's personal.
My job is pretty clear. Make Hawthorn win.
Zach Merritt against the club that nearly was.
You throw a punch, expect one to come back your way pretty quickly.
Super Saturday awaits and Bevo's got the Bulldogs on song. Two of the hottest teams from opening round. Dogs, Giants. It ignites again.
The crowd's going to go crazy here.
They went after Bontempelli. There's no doubt about that.
The Bont, Marcus Bontempelli, hosting Toby Green at Marble.
And you can hear this cheer through the streets of Melbourne.
Down the highway, the Cats, they need to forget last week.
We won't be overreacting to one performance.
While the spotlight burns bright on the rising Dockers. They have the puzzle pieces.
He's not just a one-trick pony.
What better way to launch their campaign? First to the SCG for our Super Saturday night doubleheader. The Swans have had Plugger, bustling Barry Hall, Buddy, of course, and now Charlie. Charlie Curnow, his Swans' serious showstoppers. They host the Lions, the reigning premiers. Then Super Saturday hits fever pitch live at the MCG.
Roll the replays every angle you got.
It's the Pies and the Crows. A recent history of heartstoppers.
It is deja vu at the MCG.
A dash of spite. Final scars still fresh.
Collingwood love Adelaide. Bang!
Here's your Sunday ticket. Hope, opportunity, everywhere you look. The Josh Carr era begins at Port Adelaide.
Let's go! Let's go!
With a reunion worth watching under the lid against the Kangas.
Love the physicality. Love the physicality.
There's a new voice at the Demons, Stephen King, taking charge.
Let's play footy, boys! Play footy!
Cozzy and his cousin taking the stage.
Show Cos!
This is powerful. My God, this is powerful.
Up against Ross Lyon and his shiny new Saints. And to bring it home, we head to the Gold Coast. For Dimmer, it's a celebration, a case of presents under the tree.
I likened it to waking up on Christmas Day and walking out to a set of brand new toys.
For the Eagles, the future arriving fast.
Willem Dersma from the Gippsland Power.
Every game, every club, live, right here on Fox Footy.